All right. So, welcome to the webinar today. Today's topic is Stay Inspired in Your Sales, Marketing, and Business. My name is Sunil Bhaskaran, and my cohort and partner in crime, Bill Bellew, is online as well, listening on. I might bring him on from time to time if there are any questions or comments he likes to make. And again, a hearty welcome to all of you, and look forward to presenting this information to you. Uh, Couple of things before we start. I want to make sure that you really uh, have your full focus on this webinar for yourself. Um, and my invitation, or my request really for all of you, is to reduce the distractions and noise to a bare minimum. And my invitation is to turn off anything that is operating in the background, including Skype, email, iTunes, or any other programs. My invitation is to use this time right now for yourself. So you may want to silence the phone, close the door, give yourself the gift of time to discover the secrets today that could make a huge difference in your business and your life. Uh, so that's my invitation to you. Uh, Want to invite you to ask some questions for yourself. Uh, do you feel stuck? And from time to time, perhaps in your own business or your life, and you wish to get out of that feeling of being stuck in results or questions that are unanswered about your business or your life? Are you tired of going through the ups and downs of success in your marketing? Is it difficult or challenging to keep up your energy in business, marketing, and sales? Are you disenchanted with the results you're currently having in your sales and conversions to customers? Have you been in business for a while, but the business of marketing and sales just not where you'd like it to be or should be, and that may be affecting your mood? And sometimes that mood has a cycle effect and affects your sales again. And if you're in that kind of spiral, you could say, or effect, and some of us have that effect from time to time, even the best of us, then you're certainly in the right place today. The other question is, are you happy with your profits and your results, or do you see something more that's possible for you in your business and your life? Are you getting burnt out or not excited about the systems of marketing that you have? Some of you have systems that may not be working for you. And, my invitation today is to start looking at what kind of systems you can create that would reverse the burnout and create something more exciting and more tangible in terms of returns to you. The other question I have is, if you have a team, is your team lagging in terms of generating results? What has stopped you yourself for yourself? What are some of the obstacles or challenges that you'd like to resolve and have some questions answered today? More questions here. Do you want this year to be better than last year or more of the same? And do you want it to be better, not just in terms of more money, but all of the other things in life that may matter to you, like your family, your personal time, the things that are more important for you, like connections with your friends, or your art, or your hobbies, the things that you really love to do? You want to create a sustainable and proven business that more than validates your services, products, leaderships, and abilities. A lot of you have ambitions that you've shared with me over the last week or so since I announced the webinar. And it's time for you to start realizing that you can actually really do this, that you really have a say in the market, and that you have something credible to express in terms of your business or your team out there in the world. Some of you are spending too much time spinning your wheels in marketing and business and seriously wish to make a change. And you're in the right place today in this webinar if you're looking to make a change there. And you're certainly in the right place if you wish to sell more without the hype, and sell from a position, you could say, or a context in your own life that's joyful, that has a true belief in what you're doing. And that's something that's unmistakable. I think Lincoln said it. You can fool some of the people. You can fool all of the people some of the time. You can fool some people all the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. At some point, your inspiration or lack thereof will show through in your business. And so if you wish to sell more without hype, certainly in the right place today. In the right place, if you're sick and tired of being overwhelmed and you wish to turn that around, and some of you are starting new businesses, and And I know you've kind of worried or kind of trepidatious about where to start, how to start, what to do, and to keep the energy going in the right direction. There are avoidable mistakes, and those are we're going to share some of those avoidable mistakes today as well for you. If you want a highly engaged and inspired audience who buys, then today is certainly the right place to be in this webinar. And the most important thing really is to having satisfying results in a lifestyle that reflects what you're doing in your business. Because if you have some incongruency between what you're doing and if you really enjoy what you're doing, that can be more expensive than you realize in your business. So the reality, though, is that there are three real fears that reduce inspiration for most people, I would say, not all. Some of you may find some of these familiar, these three real fears. One is the fear that you will fail. It's very normal. Some people feel that even the best of us, is, working in a CEO of a multi-$100 million company yesterday, and they all, she and her team have concerns about where and how it's going to go and whether it'll all work. It's not that she's a failure, anybody's a failure. It's just normal to feel that you could fail or things may not work the way you think it could. And so there's that fear. The other fear, second fear, is my customers or your customers will fail to connect with you and what you're up to and find out that you're a fraud. You don't really provide what you can provide. That's a pretty common fear as well in our surveys and our conversations with clients. Certainly seen that. And the third fear is that you will burn yourself out. People fear that they won't stay inspired and they'll lose the energy to continue going in their project or business or their book, whatever that you're trying to sell out there. The question is for you, what are your fears or concerns, challenges, and objectives? What is it? Firstly, what is it that you'd like to attain in the next 12 months? And what are the obstacles that could be in the form of fears or other distractions, perhaps, that come up to distract you from staying on course? So today, what we're going to cover are three main points. The first is we're going to cover three subtle secrets as to why people stop producing results and how to avoid these mistakes so you can stay on track. The operative word is to stay on track. The second thing is the concrete ways to put more oxygen on your vision rather than on the breakdowns or challenges or fires that come up in your business. The third thing you're going to learn is the step-by-step pathway to staying inspired daily, weekly, monthly, and for the year, really building a foundation for extraordinary results. What we've seen is, when people work with us, if they do the program, do it well, they typically get breakthroughs in the first year. But the second year is usually way more interesting because with the foundation that you build for the first year and some of the practices I'm going to share with you, you can really create a more extraordinary second, third, fourth, and fifth year. And that's what I love about coaching and mentoring people, is really creating that foundation and watching them really bloom in the second and third years onwards. That's some of the greatest pleasures of what I do. There's a free gift at the end of this webinar, and I promise you'll like the gift because it's going to be highly relevant to a lot of you. I'm sure some of you have been to trainings and presentations in the past, and then you may come away with thinking, well, how am I going to really implement all this? And what we are offering at the end is really a way of really solidly implementing the ideas that are presented here. So a couple of things I want to share with you about Bill and I, our recent breakthroughs. And the reason I'm sharing this is to, of course, establish some credibility with you, those of you who don't know us. But secondly, to also show that the stuff that I'm sharing with you really helps us stay on track. I mean, Bill and I are normal human beings like all of you, like everybody else. Even with success comes greater challenges sometimes and things that we have to overcome from time to time. So the things I'm going to share with you and the ideas practices I'm going to share with you today are designed to really help you produce the kinds of results we're producing here. One of the results we just got about the last week or so, we were approached by a group that's sponsored by the French government. We're working on a joint venture with them to help them promote businesses and businesses who want to start businesses here in the US. Bill is certainly getting more invitations to speak internationally. Our meetup size is now way more than 18,600. I know it's grown actually past that number probably by now. And we've got large groups of following that we've developed over the years. When I first started doing meetups about 2008, we didn't have anywhere close to these numbers. So it took a consistency of application of the principles to really build up to the point of where we really have more than a sustainable business right now. Our last launch of clientele, we had a full group of clients, and pretty quickly. About a 6-week period, I generated about $100,000 in income. Bill's site gets about 90 million hits. And we also just got Bill started actually working with a large company, and this company is actually, with the help we're already beginning to outdo Huffington Post. They're a news outfit, and so as you read through this, I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but as you read through this, you get a sense of what level of results it's possible for you if you start producing some of the practices that I'm going to share. But it wasn't all that great. When I first started business in 1991, I was fresh out of school, and a couple of years, 2 years out of school, and I really wanted to start a business. Been trying to start a business for a while. Been working really hard at it, and I can tell you, working full time and trying to do a business is entirely possible, but it takes something. And I can tell you, being inspired was not a frequent experience for me. And I didn't have the mindset or the practices to get me past breakdowns to success. It was quite a bit of struggle on a day-to-day basis. Mostly hard work is what I relied on, mostly brought on by guilt, frustration, and to cover up the resignation, I just work harder. And to cover up the fear, I work even harder. And some of us use that hard work in order to cover up some of these emotions that are going on. And to a certain extent, that can work. And it's just, if you're really in the depths of despair, probably hard work is better than nothing at all. But there's more to life than that, and there's more ways that you can generate your success without necessarily having to resort to guilt, frustration, and to cover up your resignation and fear. So one of the first things I did, actually, the smartest thing I ever did, was to hire my first mentor or coach. When I first met him, I saw him interact with some of the business people in the crowd, and I said, wow, he's the bomb. I really want to work with him. He's the guy to work with. And it took a while to convince him to work with me, and it was really quite expensive. It cost about $1,000 per month, actually $1,000 per month exactly, to work with him. And I was making about $48,000 a year with a bonus. I figured out a way to pay for him because I knew I needed to light a fire underneath me, and I need to increase the urgency. If I was going to do this business, I had to do it seriously, and I had to get the kind of guidance and be willing to pay for it, show up on time, etc. And so when I paid for it, I showed up for every coaching meeting with him on time. Did every single thing he asked me to do, even though I struggled with it and I resisted it, but I did it, and it really lit a fire underneath me. And one of the first things that we worked on, my coach, was to create a vision statement that made sense to me. And I want to underline this thing that the wording made sense to me, because I created vision statements before, mission statements before, but I kind of copied what other people did, and it didn't make any sense to me because it was something I liked to do, but I wasn't 100% behind. So part of the trick was really creating a vision statement that made sense to me, that I was willing to commit to and put my energy, my full energy, money, and commitment behind. The second thing, almost sounds silly to say this, but it's really like a duh, but it's really quite accurate. is to use the vision statement proactively every day. If you're going to create a vision statement, some of you have anchor statements or affirmations. They're close enough to a vision statement, not quite, but even if you're doing that, then if you're proactively using that every day and applying it and looking to see how you can translate those affirmations or vision statements into actual actions, then now you're bringing more life into your vision statement. And your brain will literally start paying more attention to this and work off the vision, the context of your vision. Because, repetition and the consistency of applying the vision really changes your brain. Your brain really responds way more to activity, things that you do, and to communications, mostly activity. So if you're not doing activity that's rooted in your vision statement, then your vision statement has no power. One of the first things I learned was, the power of really using that vision statement every day, using it to proactively choose what I'm going to work on and what I'm not going to work on. The third thing I learned, and there are many things that I learned, but these are top three, I would say, was generating structures and systems to ensure that the vision was paid attention to. In other words, I had a calendar that was designed around the vision. I had systems that I used in my business, dashboards that gave me my measures and my numbers that were rooted and based in the vision. And having that vision be the forefront, being leading the charge of what I was doing, really made a difference because it preempted all the distractions that tended to throw one off track. Distractions, again, like guilt or frustration, resignation or failures or temporary setbacks, didn't mean much when you keep paying attention to the vision and you have the vision so strongly imbued in your business and your systems and your team. So the first breakthrough I had, working with my coach, I had a huge breakthrough actually in 1996, early part of 96. I remember it's right after the OJ verdict that I discovered that I could actually just quit my job, and I did. And of course, I gave reasonable notice and all that, and I started traveling the world. And there's a picture of me in Rome, actually. I think, yeah, I know it is in front of the Trevi Fountain. And I want to share a couple of lessons that I learned out of the breakthrough, because that's way more important for you. And the first lesson is really selecting the right targets and the right market strategy, but really having the right passion behind it. And sometimes it's hard to see if you have the passion behind the target market. Sometimes it comes with time. So I know it's complicated. It's never an oversimplified answer to how you can run your business. Each of us are different. Each of us have unique styles, but you want to find the right passion and learn, or at least learn to develop the right passion and be truthful about it. Because sometimes, even if you don't have the right passion, it's a lot better to just say, okay, I'm not that passionate about it, but I'm going to be honest about it and still pursue it. But, the best thing to do is really to have the right passion behind that target market, because eventually that passion is going to show through. The second thing is to have the right pain points in your market. Because if you have the right pain points and you can address those pains and problems and challenges in your target market, then your passion is going to go up even more. And it builds with time, and your confidence builds as well as you start realizing how well you can really address your target market. Of course, if you find the right target markets, that also helps. If you have the right target market, right passion, and right pain points, then you're beginning to create a really good economic engine for yourself. If you have all of that and you can design the right offers that hit home for your target markets and your customers, in other words, your customers look at the offers or the packages that you're giving to them in your services and product offerings, and they go, wow, that's really hitting home for me, then that even increases your confidence more. And you can apply that over and over again to the next business that you start or decide to start up. I've applied the same principle to other businesses that I've worked on, either by myself or with other people. It's really the right combination that really drives a lot of the passion and inspiration. And then creating the right systems and sales funnels. Because if you don't have the right systems and sales funnels that can not just help automate your sales, but also drive the right people to you, then over time, again, what you're going to find is your inspiration levels are going to go up. The other lesson was planning. And it's okay to have a rough plan. I know a lot of you are perfectionists and want to try and get the perfect plan before you start. Probably not a good idea, especially if you're not, if or you haven't done anything, or you haven't even got your first client, and it's been a couple of months since you've actually been trying to do a business. But a rough plan is okay, and often we start with a rough plan with our clients, and then we fine tune it as we go along. But you want to have at least your main goals clarified. And if you start even with 2 or 3 or 4 top objectives for the next few months, you're at least on the right track. Next lesson was really the art and science of focus. And focus, should also include time to build and increase skills and get educated and trained. And that's a part that people tend to neglect. So I'm glad a lot of you are showing up on this webinar because it indicates that you're willing to include the time to build and increase skills. And I still include that time in my own time, time to up my skills, listen to other perspectives, and that increases my ability to innovate, create more positive meaning in my life and my business, and move it forward ongoingly. Fourth lesson was to learn to mitigate risk versus return on investment. I know some of you emailed me last week saying, you get stuck in how to make decisions. Sometimes you want to look at a more business orientation, making decisions. And one of the ways to do that is to assess your risk versus your return on investment, especially when it comes to selecting times to work on certain projects. What projects should you work on first before other projects? How do you prioritize? Well, you want to look at the potential return on investment, both in terms of satisfaction and money coming back to you, and assess, which projects you should work on first. Sometimes it's surprising when we sit down with our clients and we look at the projects and we suddenly realize that the projects they initially thought they should work on were probably lower on the priority level. And that's a good thing to realize, because sometimes, when you get the truth like that, it helps set you free and frees up your time and produces more money in the short term for you. Sometimes getting that kind of truth will inject more energy and flow into your business. The fifth lesson came, and this is probably the biggest lesson, because without this, nothing works. And that idea of a breakthrough, or, some of you may know geniuses out there, but, geniuses and the idea of breakthrough, or breakthrough results come with consistent application. When you look at all the geniuses, the people who have created breakthroughs in their lives, who you may be inspired by, not all of them, but it's very rare that there's an exception. The majority of them have been in business or doing something to increase their mastery for at least 8 to 10 years. If you look at the Beatles, John Lennon started playing, I think, at least about 1955. They got only famous in 1964. That's when they really broke through to the US market. They started getting famous in Britain and Europe a little bit in 1963. So they had about an 8-year time period of mastery. Paul McCartney actually started music even earlier than that. So he actually had about a 10-year time frame to build. Now, I'm not saying it's going to take you 10 years to create a breakthrough, but with consistent application over a year, a couple of months, you could really create what Bill and I call some really good damage in the market in a good way. You can create some really good results, but it takes consistent application, and you have to do the work. And there's no way around that. You got to do the work, the most part. And some of you have already done a lot of the work, and it's time to just reorientate and focus your energy in a new way, so that you have the systems that support you to be more inspired, to take on greater innovation and greater creativity, so you can build out your business even further. And one of the things you want to really learn about is how to create practices and tools to handle breakdowns. When you feel stuck, when you're stuck in a decision, how do you move past the decision? And how do you move past things that are troubling you or conflicting you, and thus having you feel stuck? Majority of what has people stay stuck is, and I wouldn't say it's an unwillingness. It's usually a lack of systems of structure or reminders for people to reflect and look at what is the source, what is the real source of their breakdowns or their problems or challenges. And when you get to the source, it could be psychological, but mostly it's a conflict between a value or two values that you have, or it's a conflict between what you think you should do and what your values are telling you to do. And once you clarify that, why, wow, you know, you get out of your own way and you can start producing results. So all of these lessons and practices were in the background of a powerful vision that I really took seriously and wanted to make real. I saw a vision for myself and for people around me to become successful. And I was intrigued about how to help people starting in 1991 because I saw a lot of other people struggling, who were fellow engineers and wanted to make more money. I remember one engineer coming up to me in my cubicle and saying, I'm up to my ears in debt. How do I get out? And I really felt like I really wanted to help people like that, but I didn't have the solution myself. I had to really create it for myself in order to make it real. But it really starts with that powerful vision. And your vision may be just about yourself, and that's fine. You don't have to go out and make a huge difference in the world necessarily as a powerful vision. But you want to look at the vision that makes an impact for yourself, at least. What is that vision? What does that look like? What is it going to look like for you in 5 years from now or 10 years from now? And what I found was when I created a long-term vision like that, the short-term stuff seemed to disappear in significance. And that's a very important thing to learn and understand, is that the longer-term outlook is where your confidence arises. Now, can you predict, guarantee the long-term outlook? Of course you can. But if you work on it every day, it's a good chance that you're going to make it more and more real. Something that may look impossible, over time, if you keep chunking it down, looking at different things, researching your target markets, etc., you can really build something inspiring over time if you look at the longer term outlook. So I got a taste of the great lifestyle. This is a photo of me in 1996. I still have some of this kind of lifestyle. I take breaks, have plenty of free time on my calendar to walk around Santa Cruz where I live. I live very close to the water, so I take walks along the cliff. My wife and I took a walk just 2 nights ago along West Cliff Drive, and it was wonderful late at night. Just a wonderful time to walk around, hear the waves, and breathe in that fresh air. And it's a reward for what I call short-term suffering. For that 1 year in 1995, I worked hard, and I knew I was going to suffer intensively for a year. But I made up my mind that I was willing to do that. I was willing to put in the work, put in the time, generate way more. I learned a lot from my coach, but I wanted to take it to the next level. And he told me it was going to take quite a bit of work still that time. There was no internet. We had to generate the business ourselves. I had to do a little bit of door knocking, but not much because we targeted our markets a lot smartly. And but it was still hard work. And what I'm trying to impress on you, sometimes the hard work is not the labor or time you put in. It's really more about the struggle with trying to identify where you want to focus and how you want to focus and building those practices, because a lot of us get very comfortable with practices that prolong what I call long-term suffering, not short-term suffering, which leads to long-term joy. But we really have practices for long-term suffering with short spurts of joy here and there. So, my invitation is to start looking at this concept of long-term joy. But if you want long-term joy, you got to pay the price somewhere. You got to make the investment somewhere. And for some of you, it may be investing more in your marketing and your coaching and training, and maybe shifting some habits, maybe waking up a little earlier to do some trainings and get your, more of your long-term vision work done. It may take a little bit of that. It may not. I'm not trying to scare you completely, but I am trying to say that, in order to get the long-term joy, you may have to make some short-term adjustments. A couple of credentials here too. I'm going to go through this really quickly and then get to the content. But Charna Sudami, who's the lady here on my slide, worked with me a couple of years ago. What she says is, Sunil helped me decipher the complex process of getting started with a new business. I'm sharing this because, really become and stay inspired in a business, you have to deal with the complexities that inevitably arise. And so if you avoid the complexities or you avoid the decision making, that doesn't really bode well for staying inspired. You really sometimes you got to confront the dead rhinoceros in the room, the thing that's really getting in the way. And that's some of the work that I did with Acharne. And so the lesson here with her was that planning and creating the right packages for the right markets, but also looking and making sure that what she was going to do, the packages that she was going to offer for the markets, were things that she could really stand behind, that she felt good about. She didn't spend an ounce of money or energy on any kind of advertising. She did it all word of mouth and through the internet, and really proud of her. She did a really good job. She's still doing really well. And so that's the lesson, really making sure that your vision is aligned with your markets and that you feel good about what you sell because it aligns with your values as well. Eric Hess here worked, and his wife actually worked with me, and they experienced a 150% increase in size over 2 years in the work that I did with them. A lesson here for Eric and Sadie, his wife, was the point at which they really took off was when their vision and goals really aligned. And I really want to emphasize this. I know some of you have come to the last webinar and you saw this as well, but this is worth repeating because if you can align your vision and your goals, then you see you have all your gears going in the same direction. Someone once interviewed Warren Buffett and asked him, "How did you make so much money over time?" Without blinking, he looked back in the interview and said, "Unlike most of the people, I have all my gears going in the same direction." His vision, his values, his goals are all going in the same direction. When you read his biography, Snowball, you get a really good sense of how he's aligned all of that. And that's important to understand. For some of you, you struggle with certain decisions that you've made and you feel not quite great about how and what you're selling. And so that's something that you want to start resolving. You may not resolve it overnight, but with dialogue with the right person who can help you see it and identify it, and then identify where you could go that's more of the promised land, more of the way that you feel good about selling, then that's time well spent. If you can spend time in a dialogue with someone who can tell you the truth about how you're selling and how you're running a business, that's time extremely well spent. Charlotte Jacobs is another client, worked with me. Long story short, I helped her triple her income in 90 days. I could do that, and I promised that to her when she first started with me, because when I looked at a market and I looked at what she was doing, I found that she was doing a lot of practices and stuff that was just not inspiring her, but also not putting money and satisfaction back in her pocket. It really boiled down to a very brutal fact that she was doing a lot of work and not getting a lot done. Like there was no results coming back. And she was a very ambitious, smart, very competent, highly competent. She and her husband, extremely competent people. But she needed a second pair of eyes to cut down her objectives so she could focus. And that focus is what really made a huge difference for her. She's a multi-million-dollar business owner right now, doing really well, still does really well. The greatest relevant breakthrough for me, I'm sharing this also to inspire you to see where you could go with your time management. A lot of you emailed me last week, in the last 2 days actually, about time management stuff and why you're totally in despair because you don't have time to get a lot of the things that you like to get done. And this is actually my calendar from November of last. I mean, if you looked at my calendar from even last week, you'll see more or less the same time that I have available. So in this calendar, you will see about I think it's about 30, maybe 35 hours of free time that I have, and there are large blocks of free time. And some of those blocks that are even taken up are things for my personal time with my wife, for movies, etc. But the real relevant breakthrough is to have this freedom of time. Now I work in a lot of these free times. Because I enjoy my work. I enjoy what I do. But it's these blank spaces in the calendar are what expresses what inspires me about my life is that choice time. Freedom is great to talk about, but unless you have a calendar that expresses that freedom, then it's really hard to really make that claim of freedom. So it's really having the choice time available that is probably the greatest relevant breakthrough for me. More importantly, is having the meaning behind the time. So if you look at some of these time blocks, not all of them, but most of them have a clear intention behind them. They have clear results, and So I know when I put something on my calendar, it has some meaning for me. And so it results in a kind of lifestyle that I have, reflected in the kind of quality of friends that I have and the people that I interact with. I do leadership trainings in UCSC, uh, which is University of California, Santa Cruz, for young students. And, it lights me up to do that. It lights me up that I have the time and availability to do that, make it work. I'm a busy guy, but, I get a lot of stuff done and I'm intentional in my time. I'm intentional with my free time. If my friends come over, I like to spend as much time as possible with them and in a meaningful way. So, what will your greatest relevant breakthrough be? In light of this conversation on inspiration, this is the $1 million question: is where would you like to go? What would you like to be? What would you like it to look like? Now, you may not have the perfect answer, and I'm not expecting you to, but I do expect you to start building it. Because the sooner you build what it's going to look like, the more likely you'll actually really have that. The ancient saying by Lao Tzu, who was an ancient Chinese philosopher, be careful of where you're heading because you might get there. So if you don't have a direction that you're heading, you might get there as well, which is nowhere, which may be okay. It's not bad to get to nowhere, but if you're trying to really stay inspired, then one of the things to look at is maybe creating a vision for yourself that will help you get and how you can get there. And that will give you a game that's juicy enough and has just the right amount of challenge to get you out of boredom or even anxiety into something that's more exciting and worthwhile to do. So why do people stop producing results and how do you avoid these mistakes so you can stay on track? So one of the things that has people stop producing results is when they don't have a clear set of vision, strategies, or objectives. So their vision for their business, they may not have a mission statement that's clear. If they have one, they've forgotten it, or they haven't even really used it, or they don't have one. The vision includes where you want to bring this company to. Why is it so important for you to build this business, or to write this book, or to create this team? What's it going to provide for you, for your team, for the world, if that's important for you? Why is it important in your vision? What is the strategy that's going to get you there? What are the overall strategies? What's your target market? Who are you more inspired to work with? Are you lying to yourself about certain business practices that you don't really enjoy and truthfully have no intention on fulfilling on? What are the strategies that you're willing to take on? Are they in alignment with your vision? And are your objectives clear? Are they measurable? Do they have numbers behind them? Are they something that you can measure and verify if you've attained or are on track for? So your vision, strategy, and objectives not being clear is one thing that has people stay off track because it's just not very clear. It's kind of like in a fog. So the solution is having an honest review. If today you spend time or if you work with me, and what I'm going to offer at the end of this webinar, it's going to be some time with me. If you want to have an honest review design with an appropriate plan that does not overwhelm you unnecessarily right now, because some of you are still doing things that need to bring in cash flow, but still retains business viability, especially for the future. You know, you want to have that honest review and redesign if necessary for your current business plan. And the sooner you do that, probably the better. The other reason people get off track is when their vision, strategy, and objectives are conflicting. So you have vision, your values, or visions and strategies and objectives that are pulling you in different directions. You may have an emotion or a philosophy pulling you in one direction. Your values tell you got to do something else, or your family pressures that tell you got to do something else, or your personal goals don't quite fit with your emotions, or the economic conditions may not be really conducive to where you want to go. And the tendency for most people is to avoid dealing with it. And when you avoid dealing with it, there's no clarity gain. You can't really move forward with power. So even if you spend a few minutes every day or an hour every week having a conversation about what's true for you, that can really make a huge difference in getting the clarity. That kind of clarity is priceless. And a lot of people, when they first talk with me, they go, why didn't we have this conversation before? Well, the truth is, you didn't call me before. But it's really having that conversation to create that clarity, to ask the truthful questions, to look at the current facts of your business, to see what you think you should be doing, but you're not, and then to really see if you're committed to and willing to make that happen. So the complexity really needs to be addressed in dialogue. We're really social animals by nature. We are just how we are by nature. We like to talk. Some of us think we don't like to talk, but when we talk and talk it out with someone else, then we gain different viewpoints and we start to put and connect the dots together. The dots that seem kind of incongruent, don't make sense. Sometimes you need that external viewpoint in a social context dialogue to help you move through and stay inspired. Another reason is that it's not enough concrete systems or structure underneath your vision or your objectives or your strategy. So the solution that I propose most of my clients is to start with what I call top-down design. By top-down design, I mean you start with your vision and your objectives. Your objectives have to match your vision. And then if you start with the vision and the objectives, then you can look at your strategy as well in parallel. And then based on that, create a plan that's more detailed. A lot of people tend to start with more detailed plans without really looking at the top down. What are your vision first? Where do you want to bring this company in 5 years? Does that jive with what you want to do in the next 1 year? Does that make sense? Is it an alignment? Or is what you're going to do now going to completely derail where you want to be in 1 year up? You want to make sure that everything's going in the same direction and you put your best foot forward. The tendency for most people is to wait for a hurricane to create urgency. In other words, they wait for an emergency to occur before they start taking action to create structures and systems. And at that point, it's no longer urgent. It actually becomes an emergency. And when you're operating in emergency from time to time, it's not very conducive for creative and solid thinking that's going to get you past that point. Sometimes you have to think at a higher plane in order to resolve where you're stuck in business. So there's a difference between urgency and emergency. In emergency, that's mostly anxiety based. Urgency is based in really managing your challenge level and your resources. So, if it's urgent, then you want to look at, okay, is it worth the challenge to do this project? In order to gauge the urgency of this project, you look at the challenge level of the project. Is how much of resources is it going to take, and is it worth the challenge? In other words, am I going to make a profit, or is it going to give me enough in return over time to make and justify spending time on the project? That's a practice to really start taking on. It'll help you stay on track. So you can dispense with the things that you're not going to do, and they're just going to cost you more money over time. Another reason why people stop producing results and stop being inspired is because there's no focus. It's interesting. What we found is when we train people to increase their focus, their stress levels usually go down. And mostly people are stressed because they have too many plates spinning in the air. And once you reduce the number of plates, it's really interesting. The stress levels go down, the focus increase, you start putting more money in your plate, you sell better. Sometimes you have to be truthful whether you can really handle or manage, or is it even worth handling, having all these plates up in the air. And so, there's an addiction to short-term joy, because we think, it's long-term suffering, but there's short-term joy, because if you have a lot of plates in the air, you're inevitably going to suffer quite a lot, sometimes unnecessarily so. And there's only an addiction to short-term joy because, once in a while you get this short-term joy. You get a break from the plates, go take a drink, go hang out with people that you like. But it doesn't last very long, and so you still are prolonging long-term suffering if you have too many plates spinning in the air and it's not giving you anything in return. So the solution is twofold. Firstly, you want to shift practices daily to focus on less. In other words, sometimes less is more. Focusing on fewer projects, fewer tasks getting accomplished will probably give you higher quality outcomes, increase your accuracy, and avoid mistakes in your projects. You also want to shift the focus on assessing your priorities by managing from risk versus return on investment. And this is a little complicated to explain in this webinar, but I'll give you the short version. When we work with our clients, what we help them do is to look at their projects that they have on their plate and select the best ones for the month, week, and year based on what the risk is for each project and also what's the potential return on investment. Obviously, you want the best return on investment and try and minimize risk as much as possible. The biggest risk is usually opportunity cost. If you spend so much time spinning your plates, you may not be getting to the things that are going to build for your long-term satisfaction, joy, and profit. So the biggest risk could be opportunity cost. And the sooner you shift that thinking and have a structure that supports you on a day-to-day basis to focus more, chances are you're going to be more inspired. The other reason why people stop producing results is they stop taking the plan seriously. People start very serious in their plans, they're very intentional. We look at people who start on diets, it's always the case almost all the time. When people start on a diet plan, it's very serious initially, but then it's not taken seriously after a while. And there are numerous psychological reasons for this. Sometimes the halo effect, people think they're doing a good thing and then they can afford to, not follow the plan. There are many reasons for it. The solution is to make sure that the plan is worth working on before you start and also while you start, while you're working on it. Always review your plan and make sure that you're on track for it. Why does it make sense? Does this plan make sense? What will it get me? How will it help improve my life in the next few years? Because you're always doing a cost benefit analysis, when you assess what you're going to focus on your day or your week. And if you're not looking at the benefits of your vision and the practices in your plan that you're trying to execute, chances are your plan is going to fall to the wayside, because in the equation of things, it's going to sound a lot better to sit down and just watch Hogan's Heroes or TV or other distractions rather than do what you should be doing. So you want to really look at your vision. If you keep looking at the vision and where you're going and what the benefits are, then that will outweigh the perceived benefits of not following your plan or your vision. You want to keep asking questions like, will the plan fulfill me? If not, how do I need to refine the plan? Will it give me what I want? Is it meaningful enough? And again, if you are getting negative answers to these, then you want to refine the plan, right? Or change the plan or make it different. The other reason, the other factor, these are some of what I'm going to share with you right now are some of the ways that you can start putting more oxygen on your vision, rather than putting more oxygen or energy mostly or only on breakdowns or challenges in your business. So you always have an opportunity every moment to put more oxygen on your future, on your vision or your future, or on the past. So, if breakdowns or problems, challenges have occurred in your past, then if you're stuck still trying to deal with it all the time, then you're putting less and less oxygen on what could really draw you to a bigger world, a more expansive world, which is your vision. So part of the solution is to detect breakdowns or stuck points quickly. And it's very tricky because most of us are so used to suffering, right, that we forget that we can actually identify if we have a problem. And maybe the most important thing is to just say, okay, you know what? There's a problem here. We have a breakdown. I'm trying to get to my monthly milestone for my breakthrough, but I'm a little behind. So instead of being stuck or avoiding it, the thing may be to really confront it sooner rather than later. And sometimes what helps is having a dialogue partner or a coach or a mentor, so you can actually look at your results realistically and say, okay, there's a breakdown here. And it's a realistic breakdown. It's not a bad thing. It's not a crisis. It's not a total failure. It's just a bump in the road. And the more frequent check-ins you have, someone that you can dialogue with, the more likely you are to get past the breakdown quickly in a stuck point, so you can stay in action and stay in the flow of moving towards your vision being fulfilled. So everything, decisions, agendas for meeting, everything should be sourced in the vision and staying on track to the vision. This is the other second point, which is, when you create or are looking at decisions or agendas for meetings or structures or systems or even goals for the week or for the month, you want to make sure that all of these decisions and goals, objectives, etc., are in alignment with your vision. And the decisions and agendas and the systems that you have help you stay on track to the vision and don't distract. So that's important to look far ahead of, so you can avoid the breakdowns, but also, and there are breakdowns and problems that you can avoid, and there's some that you can't avoid, no matter what you do. But the ones that you can avoid, you can probably avoid, especially if you have a second pair of eyes behind them. And then the second point solution here is to make sure you source everything in your vision and you have that kind of alignment. Okay. The second way to put more oxygen in your vision is to make sure you have a process for handling your breakdowns. Now, everybody is different, and all of you probably have a slightly different process, if not quite a different process. And it depends on the sophistication of your business, the complexity of your lives, etc. But there's some basic steps in the process that we create for each client. And once you have that process, it's a way that you can always use, usually about 5 or 6 steps that you can use to get out of a breakdown or stuck point quickly and move on. And I know some of you have asked questions about this. I'll cover, if we have time, I'll cover this question and what exactly that process could look like in the Q&A section. Okay, I promise I'll get to that. Other ways you can put more oxygen on your vision, in your future, is to use your vision statement rigorously. It's surprisingly, a lot of people create mission statements, but they completely forget what they are. When we interact with our clients, part of our VIP Academy program, we actually interact with people on a daily basis through email. And in the email, at the top of the email is the vision statement. So that vision statement is always present for me as their mentor and coach, and for them as well. It's what drives everything. So if you're using the vision statement to select your objectives for the day, then you have a very powerful system to keep you alive and keep your sales, your marketing, your business alive on a more consistent basis. By the way, this works with teams as well. When you're managing teams, if you have the vision statement really drive your meetings, you don't necessarily have to talk about a vision statement all the time. But if you're stuck in decisions and you use a vision statement with the team to dialogue to help resolve breakdowns and problems, then now you're really strengthening the value of your vision statement with your team. The tendency is to lower the priority on vision because people think, I'm done with the vision statement. I've done it. I've satisfied my board of directors or whatever it is, whoever you need to satisfy, and it's not used anymore. But I say that's a real waste of a very precious resource called your vision statement. A good percentage of your conversation should be innovative, creative, looking at the future. How can we stay on track for the 5-year plan? Are we doing the right things that will satisfy us? Will our families benefit from all of this? How will they benefit? Does it still make sense? Or should we refine the vision, or should we refine our objectives, or do both? So important questions to have present with you, because it'll help you stay on track and give you a more expanded viewpoint of the problems or challenges you may face right now. When you have a really big vision, some of your problems may start disappearing. I mean, literally start disappearing. They may seem insignificant compared to what you want to generate in the longer term. Another way is to get dialogue systems in place, either with your team, with the companies that I coach. We usually have dialogue systems where we have very well-run meetings. They're very short and sweet meetings that are designed to generate inspiration, but also concrete ways that we're going to implement the vision for the day, make sure that people feel really good about the game for the day, for the week. And it's those kind of dialogue and accountability systems that really work. And it can work for you if you're a solopreneur as well. You want to set up these dialogue systems with someone, preferably external, a coach or a mentor or a partner. So Bill and I talk, converse fairly often throughout the day through Skype and through other means, and we discuss ideas. We look at different things, different decisions that need to be made. And it's those kind of dialogue systems that really keep us engaged in the business and really keep us engaged in the vision, keep us going. The tendency is to relegate priority again, because relegate priority of the vision, that is, or the relegate priority of having dialogue systems, because people feel that action is better than words. So why talk about stuff, especially if I can do it myself? So what's the point of talking about it? But the problem is that almost all effectiveness is based in language. The kind of language you use is either success oriented or it's designed to keep you in a hole. So if you're stuck in a particular monologue, with yourself, telling yourself that you just have to keep doing something, but it's not producing the results, then it may be time to have a more external conversation with somebody else and to create a different context or a different language or a set of wordings or a different way of thinking. So your language really affects your mindset in a big way. So sometimes when I listen to people talk, I can already derive and see what kind of mindset they have. It's not always 100% foolproof, but it can tell me pretty quickly, roughly what their mindset is, how they relate to success, how they avoid it, what their beliefs about money are that could be holding them back. And so if you start shifting the language by using dialogue systems, you're more likely to shift your thinking and mindset and produce better results and better decisions over time. You also want to train your team to use the above principle. Those of you who have team members, the tendency for a lot of leaders is that teams should be self-generating. And by right, they should be self-generating. But mostly as a leader, if you have a new team especially, you want to train the team to self-generate. And part of this is using a lot of these practices themselves. Remember, a lot of people are not trained in these tools and practices. They're just not trained in this. Most corporations don't do this kind of training. So when you get them as an employee or part of your team, they don't necessarily know how to self-generate. Most think they know how to self-generate. They don't really know how to self-generate like an entrepreneur like yourself. So you got to train them. There's some training required. Even if they have been trained before, they need to know how to work with you and in alignment with you and your vision in your company so they can self-generate and produce results that are relevant to you. And so the tendency against a lower priority on training and team building, I say you got to up that. You got to spend more time on a training and a team building. I've got a new admin I'm training right now. And I give her little things to do over time, and it builds her confidence, and she gets more confident. And the things that she thinks she knows about, but when I train her, she realizes, wow, she could have done it a lot better. So, it's really good to do the training. It gets your team out of their heads and more into action, and it'll be less frustration for you as well if you start taking that on. I guarantee you that. You want to learn to manage your promises. And this is key to producing extraordinary results. Your reliability is key. If you're only 20% reliable in managing your own promises, let's say you have a goal of, if you've missed your goals in the last 2 years or 3 years, or even the last few months, then it could be your relationship to how seriously you take your promises that's at stake here. And now this is not a finger wagging exercise where I'm scolding you. It's really an opportunity because some of you may be, at 75% reliability in keeping your promises in your business. If you up that even to 80% in the next 1 year, it'll make a huge difference for you. If you have a 5% increase in your ability to keep your promises, that can really create a huge difference for you. Even a 1% difference can make a huge difference. But you need to really have a system to manage your promises and make sure you stay on track. That's very, very, very key. If you more management you have of your promises, the more likely you are to focus. More likely you are to focus, the more likely you are to stay on track for your results. Well, learn to manage and refine based on numbers. Now, I know some of you may find this difficult to hear, but this is really the key. This is where the short-term suffering is. But I promise you long-term joy in this. Because if you learn to manage and refine based on numbers, you don't have to spend your entire life and time on numbers, but you've got to spend some time looking at the numbers to see what they mean. Do they mean that you're on track for your results, or are you off track? So, Bill looks at numbers every week. He looks at he looks at the meetup numbers almost every day, I think, or at least every couple of days. And it's that refinement of based on the numbers that really helps us stay on track. Sometimes the numbers don't mean anything in the short term, but in the long term, if you keep doing it over and over again, it's a greater chance that you're going to start producing some results. Um, Again, dialoguing to innovate, is the other practice you want to start doing. In order to sell better, serve better, and work better, you want to always take on being mindful. The opposite of mindful is being mindless. Mindlessness is something that was studied by a lady called Ellen Langer, who studied this. She was the first woman tenured in the School of Psychology in Harvard University. And mindlessness has three components. One is not paying attention to information that could make a difference for you. Secondly, not looking at different perspectives in your business. And thirdly, not having or being open to different categories of thinking. Sometimes you may be stuck in a particular category or way of thinking, and it may require a different category of thinking to look at from a business. I was just talking to someone the other day, very, very successful business, but their website's just not converting. Very good marketers, but the website's not very converting. And I saw something that they couldn't see, but when they saw it really opened their eyes. And it's a very simple thing. The very simple thing about their site is they were not appealing in a very targeted manner, in a very focused manner to the people coming to the site. The people coming to their website just didn't find anything engaging about what they were talking about. So they left. So they were losing quite a lot of people. Sometimes you just need a simple category of thinking. Sometimes it's a more complicated category of thinking in order to shift your results. So the pathway to creating extraordinary results. The first is, really make sure you got your vision, strategy, and plan down. As Eisenhower said, plans are nothing, but planning is everything. There's no such thing as a perfect plan when you first get it or a perfect vision. It's the constant refining, looking at the plan, adjusting to conditions, adjusting to how you're responding to the plan realistically. Some plans are just not something you're going to do. And we're very realistic in our approach when we work with our clients. We want to make sure the plans are something that they're going to do. If they're not going to do it, then hey, time for plan B. Otherwise, what's the point? We can argue all day long for the validity of the plan, but it won't make a difference unless you keep refining, reviewing, and moving the plan forward. Number two, you want to set up accountability and dialogue systems. If you want to stay inspired, you got to do the work in order to stay inspired. Sometimes it takes quite a bit of work. You need to have the constant touch-ins or the frequent touch-ins. It doesn't have to take up a long time. You don't have to sit on a couch and talk to somebody necessarily. You don't have to do that. It could be very short, sweet conversations that could really help you move forward very quickly. So number two, setting up accountability and dialogue systems. Number three is the frequency of check-ins and dialogue. Now, these may not be your accountability conversations. They may be more about long-term strategy and having at least a weekly meeting on innovation for the future is very useful to have. Bill and I have a weekly meeting face-to-face every week, and we discuss looking at the future. We look at different things that we can start exploring. And it's quite amazing because some of those ideas are probably not going to pan out, but a good percentage will pan out probably in the next 3 months, 4 months, 6 months or so. And you can almost start planning when you're going to implement some of these innovative ideas. If you don't do that, you're not planning for the long term. Can't. And it's very difficult to stay inspired about the same old thing over and over again. Somewhere you got to grow or build your business to something more exciting, create something more challenging perhaps, so you can stimulate your senses and stay in the action. Number four, you want to have systems and processes to handle breakdowns. Again, I mentioned earlier that you want to each person has their own style and their own set of circumstances. You want to make sure the systems and processes are designed to your own style and your own levels of time management, etc. You want to make sure you have systems and processes in the event of breakdowns occurring. there are things that you can start following, and you can train your team to do that over time. If you're an entrepreneur in the midst of building a company, one of the things you want to look at is training your teams and how to handle leadership. And part of leadership is being able to keep a clear mind in the midst of a breakdown or a crisis so you can get past it. But you have to have the systems and processes in place so you can handle those kinds of breakdowns. And then you want to create automation. And this takes a while. And sometimes you have to really look at how your operations are running, how your sales funnels are working before you can automate them and rinse and repeat. Before automation sets in, you want to really look and make sure that your systems are going to make sense for you and actually convert into business over time. You want to make sure you review your processes as well from time to time so that you can sharpen your saw and keep your engine sharp in your business. So, what's the key, to staying inspired is all these practices that I've shared with you. And the entrepreneurs that I've worked with who have followed these practices are a lot happier and a lot a lot less stressed. And a typical, stress levels, within 3 months of working, we've seen people go from a level 8 or more stress down to about a level 3, maybe a level 4 or 5 in some cases, but it's still very much lower than when they first started. And it's important to really focus on this if you really want to generate good, outstanding results in the long term. You want to take on these practices and take them on in a good way. So I know some of you showed up and I'm not sure why all of you showed up today, but I know some of you showed up because the communications you've been sending me. You're tired of trying different marketing tactics without a clear vision, strategy, and plan. And you're tired of being overwhelmed and feeling stuck. And you want to feel clear and confident about moving towards the fulfillment of your dreams and ambitions. And for a lot of you, it's about time. It's time for you to really fulfill on what you want to do. I had somebody just the other day do a strategy session with me, and she's saying, she's been doing it for 13 or 15 years, and it's time for her to really move on to something else. And I felt for her. And it's maybe your time to really move on to the next level of your business, making sure that you have the systems in place to keep you inspired and in action. And deep down in your heart, you know that you have the capability and the capacity to get all this done. And what we may be missing is a solid, customized plan, and I underline customized, with a realistic dialogue partner or coach to guide your way to success, with the right details and the chunk down steps. Like I said, this is your time. This may be your time to really get the results and a plan and a system that works for you. And the obvious question is, how do I make all of this work so I can get things up and running for yourself? And, there are always two options in life. You can either choose long-term suffering like I described earlier, or you can choose long-term joy. And with long-term joy, you have the opportunity to get clarity daily, monthly, weekly, and yearly too. Increase your focus, create more traction towards a breakthrough. And what you want to create is a system that is customized to what you need, your circumstance, your target markets, and your desired levels of goals. But first, you want to define the game, the score you want, and how you're going to win the game, and with a plan that's going to work, at least a rough set plan. So what we want to offer you for today only, for those of you on the call, is an opportunity to apply for a free consultation. It's a 1-hour consultation. You have to apply for this and go to the form online to fill out this form so you can apply for this time with us. And in this session, what we're going to do is help you close the gap between where you're at and where you want to be. And for some of you, the biggest gap may be due to fear, maybe just stuck in fear or anxiety or concern about how to get to that next step. Some of you may already be in business for a while and you want to really get to the next level, but you're concerned that you may have tried different things in the past, they haven't worked. What makes you sure this is going to work? And the only way really past that familiar place is to take decisive action. And Bill and I are really committed that you close this gap as soon as possible for yourself, because long-term suffering is not a good place to be in. And taking that decisive action is the first step towards really moving towards the inspired life that you want. So we invite you to go to this website, yourvipss.com. That's yourvipss.com. And fill out the application form right there. It's a very short application form. You want to make sure you fill it out with details, though, so we can approve it. Not everybody gets approved. We do have limited seats for the next week or so. And make sure you apply as soon as possible so you get your application in. Again, make sure you give us sufficient details so we can approve your application or not. What we're going to look at in the session is look at your biggest challenges and roadblocks. The benefit to you is we're going to help you clarify your vision and, in fact, give you a 12-month plan and a strategy and maybe an assessment of some of the skills you may need to improve on in order to really move towards these specific goals that you may have. This is a complimentary. It's free to apply. There's no charge to apply, and there's no charge for the session itself. But like I said, there are limited spaces, so you want to apply as soon as possible. The intention of the meeting is to really serve you. We do have a program that we talk about only if it makes sense to you. And we talk about it, it's not the majority of the conversation. The majority of the conversation is really dedicated making sure that you're clear what your next steps are. So there's a difference again between uncommitted action and committed action or urgency. And we invite you to really take that urgency right now. Go to yourvipss.com and fill out the application and turn in your form, and let's get together and let's see how we can help you move forward really quickly. So a couple of questions I've already gotten so far. If you have any more, feel free to type them into the chat box, the question box. First question here, I tend to be distracted. Will your VIP program help me with being more consistent? Yes, it will, because we work with you on a daily basis. And we have phone calls, we have emails, we have a lot of structure that keeps us highly in touch with you. So the VIP program is really designed to do that. I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you for that question. I have a team, and team tends to get distracted by fires, putting out fires, that is. Will the strategy session help? Yeah, absolutely. We get that question quite a lot. And a lot of people come, not all, but a lot of people who come on the strategy sessions typically have a team. Again, a lot of them also come in who have no teams, but are looking to develop them in the future. And yeah, we'll give you some suggestions on how to really get the team undistracted and help you set the priorities that will keep your team on track and probably reduce the stress by quite a bit. Depending on the complexity, it might take a couple of months, it might take a couple of weeks, just depends. But reducing that immediate stress is probably quite important. That usually occurs when you increase the focus and increase the attention to the priorities being set. So definitely apply for the strategy session. That will certainly help. Let's see. I have a solid healing practice. I'm assuming like an acupuncture or Ayurvedic practitioner or coach or some sort. And I wish to settle up. Let's see. I get caught up. I wish to scale up. Okay, couldn't read it handwriting. I wish to scale up, but I got caught up in the minutia. That's a pretty common situation where you have a practice and you have clientele and you want to scale up and you want to appeal to a larger audience. And, there are certain stages that you'll have to go through. I mean, everything I shared with you, identifying your target markets, getting more clear about it so you can expand your marketing is going to be critical. So there are various stages that I went through earlier, but I can repeat those and probably customize those specifically to you in the strategy session. So if you have a healing practice like that, certainly come on this strategy session so we can help you. So if you're getting caught up in the minutia, certainly want to start focusing on a target market. See, the beautiful thing about addressing a marketing strategy is probably going to help you with your time management as well. Because if you're spinning wheels on a market that's not really feeding you, then it may be time to change your strategy. That may be the critical point. Next question, looking to pivot. I'm moving from being a successful real estate investor, moving more to becoming a consultant. And I have a book and strategy in mind. Should I do the strategy session or should I do the 1-year program right away? I tell you what, why don't you email me directly and let me know a little bit about what you're looking for? Because I want to make sure it's the right fit for you. But probably, I would say almost 99%. The strategy session is a good place to start. So just apply for the strategy session. Tell me what some of your concerns are, what your questions are, challenges are. Happy to address it with you and give you a solution. And then we can look and see if the 1 year program makes sense for you. Okay. I'm actually ready to do the 1 year program. Okay. Uh, just email me and I'll send you the link and I'll tell you what to do. Okay. If you're just interested in doing the 1 year program and you don't want to do the strategy session, just let me know that. Send me an email. My email is Sunil, SUNIL, at chahayamind.com. That's spelled CAHAYAMIND.com. So if you want to just do the program, you don't want to do a strategy session, just go ahead and email me, let me know that, and I will work you through that. Okay. I want to make sure it's a good fit for you before you do anything. Okay. I have a wine related product that I intend to sell. I'm confused about my sales funnel. Again, I think the answer for that is I would say for sure get on the strategy session, because when you're looking at something like that, I've done work with people who have had wine related products and services in the past, and I can give you a little bit of information on what you need to do. So definitely do the strategy session, and we'll help you do that. All right. Question from Rochelle here. I'm in the life insurance profession, and I want to attract more high net worth clients. Where do I start? It's a good question. One of the things you have to deal with, Rochelle, is compliance issues with your marketing. So, I have some experience doing that, but you need to work through that. But also, more importantly, it goes down to the basics. You want to look at, because life insurance, there's so many life insurance people out there. You have to separate yourself and distinguish yourself from everybody else who's in the same profession. If you go to a standard networking event in the Bay Area, you're probably going to meet at least one or two other insurance people, if not life insurance people. So you got to stand out. So you got to develop a way of standing out either online or offline or both. And this is where you got to distinguish yourself. My recommendation is fill out the application form for the strategy session. Let's work through some of the complexity that you probably have that you're looking at, and then I can help you a little bit more there. But the basic idea, Rochelle, is like anything else, you want to learn to distinguish yourself in the market, because you got to look at it from the customer's point of view. Why would they want to work with you if they already have a life insurance person, or they already met 5 others in the last week, or they know that their parents, or their kids in the school have another life insurance person who's a parent? Why would they want to come work with you? You got to look at those kind of questions and address that quite realistically. There's a way to work through it. There usually is. That's the good news. The slightly bad news is you got to work through it. And I'm not saying you don't or you won't, but that's the investment you have to make. So if you want to move on that urgently, then you want to really, really work on coming to the strategy session. Make sure you fill in the good details in the strategy session when you apply for it, so I can understand what you're talking about and help you better. All right. I attended a meeting with you at the real estate investing group a couple of years back. Oh, this is probably the one I had in Santa Cruz with a couple other friends. A friend of mine actually started it, but I helped run it. I have a real estate wholesaling business. It's going through ups and downs and other complexities. Can you help me with the business operations as well? And will this help in the VIP Academy program that you talked about? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we work with investors as well. Actually, work in our current cohort. We have such a customer who's working to attract investors and bring in real estate opportunities and get investments and help manage them. So yeah, we can actually help you with the business operations as well. And I've been in real estate as well before, so happy to help you. Again, make sure you fill out the strategy session form so I can know how to specifically help you. I have a CPA bookkeeping service, and I have a lot of competition, like you said. Any help or suggestions when I network? Same process, and I hate to be broken record here, sound like one, at least, but you want to look at your target markets, especially in your market, because in your market, like a lot of markets, it's what I call a flat market. In other words, most CPAs, bookkeepers make about maybe 50 to 60,000. Some make about 75. The majority of people make far less, actually, but it averages about 75K or so, 60K to 75K. How you stand out, but there's one percentage of them, small percentage of people who really stand out. They make a heck of a lot of money. And the reason they typically do so is because they pay a lot more attention to their target marketing. They're a lot more focused in their marketing. Their messaging is very clear. So the sales cycles are a lot shorter. There's a lot more credibility online that you have because they have a stronger presence. But their presence is backed up by their consistency of their branding and their messaging. And so you have to do some work there in that direction. And I probably could help you. But again, you want to fill out your details in the strategy session application. Tell me a little bit more about what your potential markets are so I can maybe help fine tune that for you. I was referred by your client, Christine. And the vision in my company, I feel, is lacking. Do you have a process that we can do this for teams? Yeah, we do. And I can help you with that as well, if that's what you want to do with your team. Absolutely. And you'll find that when you have your team aligned, it also helps in the branding of your company, because if your branding matches the vision that your team holds near and dear to their hearts, then when your team talks to your clients or your customers are going to experience a consistency in the branding, because the vision is what's driving the branding. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I can help you with that as well. Reality of the vision. Oh, okay. I do have a vision, but I have breakdowns, and I'm curious to see how you customize a process for handling breakdowns for my situation. I'll give you a simple process that I use for most clients. But like I said, it probably needs to be customized to you. There are 5 stages. First is to acknowledge the breakdown. How you acknowledge it is you look at the facts, what happened, as opposed to the opinions about what happened. It's the first step. It's good to distinguish between your opinions, your judgments about yourself, about other people, versus what happened, what really happened, what are the facts. Then review your vision statement. And then based on the vision statement, what are your options on resolving this? And then fourthly, you want to choose which are your options that you're going to focus on for right now. And then you put in your accountability system to make sure that you execute on that choice. I may have gone through that pretty quickly, and I apologize, but I'm just trying to get to all these questions. But if you have more questions about that, you probably do. Apply for the strategy session. I'll be happy to help you. All right, a couple more questions here. How do I stay authentic and inspired? I don't want this to be contrived. Oh, very good question. No, it's a very relevant question. I don't want this to be contrived for you either. So it's okay to actually doubt and reflect about your mission statement, what really will be authentic for you, what lights you up. And so, it's always good to dialogue about it with someone who will tell you the truth. If you have friends who keep telling you, oh, you're going to do well, they mean well, but they're not really giving you insight, then you may need somebody to reflect on, and sometimes it's hard to share that with your team or the people around you immediately, because, you have this need to look good or seem upbeat, but sometimes you want to express your doubts and reflect against the truth of what's going on. And if the vision's not inspiring, then you want to really look at that. What's really missing underneath that? Could it be that your heart and mind is on some other aspect of the business, really, or it's in a different business or a different target market? So it's always good to tell the truth in yourself, and the truth will set you free, but first it may piss you off. It's what Gloria Steinem used to say. But sometimes it's good to go through that quick suffering, the truth, and get to the other side, so you have an authentic and inspired vision. Thank you for that question. It's a really great question. Is the strategy session free? Yes, it is. Can you tell us more about the VIP program? Let's see. In brief, it's a 1-year program. There are 3 stages to the program. The first stage, we work on creating a sales funnel for you so you can convert people coming to you. We also work with you on all 3 stages of the year in increasing your traffic, the number of people that come to your site, both online and offline, and we help you convert those people as quickly as possible. Every month, you get a lot of interaction. You get 4 group coaching calls with us. You get 2 long phone calls, and you get short phone calls whenever you need to, and you get daily email interactions with us so you can stay on track. In a nutshell, that's the program. We give a discount to people who come on the strategy session. The actual cost of the program for 1 year is $7,500, but we give a very special early bird discount. You can start early with us, and you can also get an early bird discount. It's quite a significant discount if you come in a strategy session and you express interest in the program. Okay, because we want to make sure this is a good match for you and it makes sense for you. So we're willing to reward people who make a quick decision and want to move quickly on it. So hope that makes sense. Again, if you want to find out more about the VIP program, email me. If you want to register directly into it, that's fine too. Just let me know by email. Again, my email is Sunil, SUNIL, at Chahayamind, CAHAYAMIND.com. Okay, another question here. Whoops, new to this, from Joanna. So you're a graphic designer, working freelance, and I'm hoping to level up and grow, struggling to find a niche or target. Yeah, you're not alone, Joanna, and it's very normal. Most of the time, it's not very easy. If it was easy, most of us would be millionaires. We wouldn't have to do these webinars, So it's going to take some customized work to really look at it. And if you're willing to do the work, which I'm sure you are, you're struggling to find. If you're struggling to find, and you want to direct that struggling to in a more focused way, in a dialogue with me, and I can help you find a niche or a target. I've worked with graphic designers in the past too. Part of it is really rebranding yourself. Because you see, if you brand yourself as a graphic designer, you're going to lump yourself up with every other graphic designer in the world. And believe me, there are at least 1 million of them out there, I'm pretty sure. So you got to distinguish yourself. That means you got to upbrand yourself. You got to position yourself as someone more distinct, who's more valuable than just this. And I'm not knocking any graphic design. I'm just saying that you have to really distinguish yourself, right? So part of it is upbranding yourself, and it takes a little bit more complexity to deal with. So it's going to take more of a one-on-one conversation to do that, Joanna. What I would recommend is do the go to yourvipss.com, and I'll type it into the chat box here so you all can have it. And fill out your application there to get a session with me. Okay, you keep mentioning the word dialogue. What does that mean? That's a really good question. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. It means several things. It means having someone who's going to discuss your vision with you and see what the reality of it is. Is it something that's going to really keep you on track, or is it something that you like to talk about but you're not really willing to commit to? That's part of the dialogue thing that should go on in a dialogue, I feel. Are you aligned? Are your values aligned with the vision? Are your objectives in alignment with the vision and vice versa? Do you have sufficient long-term and short-term objectives? Are they clear? Are they clear enough? How are your team members working? Are your team and your systems working to support you, or are you working to support them? These are hard but truthful questions to ask. That's part of the dialogue you want to have. Are your personal goals and your business goals aligned? Your personal goals and your vision aligned? Do you have enough consistency in upping the challenge in your life? If you're bored, then are you working enough or talking enough to create more challenge in your life? Really, a dialogue should be present inside of choice, leaving you at choice in a matter, not just giving you advice and, intending that you just take my advice, but really looking at a two-way street where we can dialogue and actually exchange information so we arrive at something that works for you. See, I'm the expert in business, but you're the expert in your life and in your business. I'm an expert in target marketing, business, generating traffic. Bill and I are experts in that. If you bring your wants and your desires to the conversation, we bring our expertise and we dance together in about 1 hour or less, we get very clear on what choices need to be made for yourself, and that you feel comfortable with those choices. You mentioned urgency versus emergency. What's the difference? Well, in emergency, the experience is usually one of anxiety. You're anxious. It's last minute. There's almost nothing you can do. It's almost like desperation. In urgency, you can if you're living life urgency, it doesn't mean that you're always anxious at all. It's urgency just means that you're in a flow. And then when you're in flow, your challenge level is just at the right level. You're not going into boredom, you're not going into anxiety, you're just right at that sweet spot as best as possible, where you're looking out ahead, you're seeing all the breakdowns occur, you're being proactive as best as you can, and you're keeping your vision in front of you, and you have alignment between your objectives and your long-term vision. So I hope that makes sense. Do you work with CEOs of larger companies? Yes, I do. Quite a number of my clients are CEOs of larger companies, and in fact, one of the new clients has a multi-$100 million company we work with, and they are having a whole new vision, whole new plan that they want to institute. And I've worked with several companies like that. So yeah, happy to have a conversation with you. If you want to reach out to me directly, that's fine too. My email again, let me type in my email so everybody has it on the chat box. So I put that in the chat box as well. So you can email me at that email address if you have any specific questions. And let's see, last question here before I move on. Accountability systems and how to hold people to account. Oh, how do I hold people to account without being overbearing? Well, this is probably a question for another whole webinar. I could talk about it probably for a whole day, actually, but I'm not trying to dismiss the question. It's a good question, actually. And see, again, I think when it comes to accountability, there are two things you have to presence with your team and with yourself. Well, with your team, if you're holding people to account. One is your vision. You want to let the vision lead the charge in your accountability, because if you don't, then what's going to be in its place is survival and desperation and making people wrong and dominating them, or them avoiding your domination, or a debate where you're debating your position or arguing. You know, when it's accountability should be graceful and effective. And mostly it is around me because I start with the vision. What's most important is holding people to account on their vision, where they want to go. So if a team wants to go somewhere on their objectives, it's their promises. You want to identify what their promise, where they want to go because they chose to go there. Even though it's part of their job, they chose to go there. You want to hold them to account from their vision of what they like to do. And if their vision and objectives are not clear or exciting enough for them to follow through, then that's something to address up front. That's where I would start with the accountability. The second is to create safety. By safety, I mean that it's okay for them to make mistakes. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to get angry. You're going to get angry from time to time. You probably are. But how you set up safety is, in most of the times in interactions you have with people, you guide them, you train them, you tell them clearly what your vision is, where you want to go. You set up expectations, you sell the idea to them, you sell them on how they can really thrive in the company. You also let them know that if a mistake is made, that you will work with them, and you uphold your bargain, that you'll work with them in a as long as the conversation they have with you is a professional one, and it's done with the intention to resolve the breakdown rather than argue about it. So it's very important to set up those kind of context. And like I said, I agree. I acknowledge it's a fairly complicated question, like most questions are. If you have that question, you want to get clarity and apply for it on the strategy session, I'll be happy to talk to you about it. All right, great questions. Thank you for all the questions. I appreciate all your interest, especially in the VIP program. If you want to find out more about the VIP, just email me directly. I sent the email, and make sure you apply for the yourvipassess.com application form for the strategy session. Remember, this is an opportunity. If you're looking to really get inspired and have that be consistent in your life, then you got to start somewhere. And taking immediate action is really the key. And one of the most immediate and best actions you can take is to apply for that session, get clear on what your plan would be for the next 12 months, 9 months, and let's get going, and let's have you stay inspired in your sales, marketing, and business. Thank you again for the opportunity to make a difference with you, and look forward to doing future trainings again with you, and we'll talk again. Thank you again, and have a great day.